Good
We
morning.
we
Good
just
afternoon.
yep, we just stepped right into the afternoon. How are you?
I'm
Good to
good. How
see you.
you doing? It's
I'm
good to
doing well.
see you as well. Can you
Where
hear me okay?
I can hear you wonderfully. Yeah,
Okay.
yep, you're coming through loud and clear. You look great. You sound great.
Thank
Where
you.
where are you these days? Where are you coming from? Where are you calling from?
I'm at home. I'm in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Everybody, I work at USC during the week, and so we're all working from home.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'm in LA right now.
you're in
I'll
LA.
be going to
Okay.
Chicago in a couple weeks to get my kids because they've been there all summer. Um, and I didn't do much. I didn't do as much traveling as I expected. I really thought I was
Right.
going to do like a bunch of stuff,
Yeah.
um, but that didn't happen.
Yeah. I yeah.
Work took over.
Work to go.
I actually have been more busy with work and stuff here in LA than
Yeah.
post pre-COVID, and I'm not sure what that's about.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's great that you bring that up because that's actually what I wanted to talk with you about
okay,
is all of the things that you're doing because I met you just before we had lockdown. You led
yeah,
a wonderful lunch for me and a bunch of other church starters, and you shared
thank
with
you.
us how you take risks and how you leaned into the spirit. I remember just like writing notes like frequently. It was so hard. I wanted
uh,
to have everything that you were saying, but I also wanted to be there in the moment with you. So I'm thankful that I can kind of relive a little bit of that
yeah,
conversation now and hear some of the things that you're doing right now.
yeah.
And ultimately what I would love to talk about is
Hmm.
just how you are using ministry as mentorship and then specifically how you do fun things like your TikTok videos and stuff like that, and how you're like using TikTok as a mentorship. It's kind of like
Yeah,
mentorship and as a way to give back. So, but first,
yeah.
just, what are some of the things you're doing right now just to connect people and just give hope and happiness?
Yeah, so let me start, let me kind of work my way through the different things of that. So for work,
Yeah.
I work at the Murray Center at USC, and we, like everybody's, had to pivot. And one of the
Hmm.
ways we opted to pivot, and I was kind of given the green light, was to have these things called critical conversations around how people were managing, handling, pivoting through the COVID crises, which then ended up like evolving into a bunch of other conversations
Hmm.
as the whole George Floyd and the international protest took wave. So through work, I've been blessed to be a part of a lot of conversations with a lot of different communities, and be one of the many voices of leadership here in Los Angeles around some of the things that we're just facing from how faith leaders are dealing with COVID to faith leaders responding to this national outcry against injustice and racism. And so just being a part of a number of different conversations from, with my Jewish brothers and sisters. I was able to do something with Adam Schiff and his team. And it's been a really fun,
Hmm.
and leaning into, and I shared this with somebody yesterday, leaning into the role of a prophetic voice. And I mean, not that I've not done that before, but really more outside the walls of the church, right?
Hmm.
And so taking that and leaning into it, and it's not an extremely familiar space for me, um, but it is a space that's kind of opened up in a way that I had not really planned or expected,
Hmm.
and so just leaning into that. So everything from conversations with individuals like yourself in this platform, to speaking at protests, to being on all these different Zoom conference calls and
Hmm.
classes and sessions. It's been really amazing.
Yeah.
Um, and then one of the things I'm leaning into in this season is being part of the gatherings and rallies and protests, as it relates to the budget here in Los Angeles, Black Lives Matter. And so
Hmm.
I'm part of a cohort of pastors. We are clergy for Black Lives. And so we support, just being of support, but also standing with our other brothers and sisters from different communities. I was part of the interfaith gathering on Sunday.
That's right. At Pan Pacific Park.
Yeah, Pan
Yeah.
Pacific
Right.
Park. And that was really about clergy from different communities coming together, saying we're centering all of us are doing justice work. But we're working in different spaces because as we are called, and and as our community needs us. But at the core, we're standing together in solidarity for justice for all, and centering our faith around this cry for justice, whether we're standing for our trans community, immigrant community, indigenous community, you know, all the various communities that are being, you know, marginalized in this season, and experiencing racism and bigotry. And at the core, Black Lives Matter, and you know that's the core of our message. And we stand with all these, we stand with all of our brothers and sisters who are experiencing injustice at a, you know, due to racism and bigotry at an alarming rate. And so, or just period, not an alarming rate, period. And then ministry wise, I'm just trying to serve, you know, like, I mean, we've done well at pivoting virtually. I think we've done pretty good at that. When we launched Word of Encouragement Church, our tagline is that we are a social media friendly church. So our whole campaign when we launched was social media. We didn't do any mailers or flyers. It was all social media and radio. So we were already kind of, that's always been one of our core values, I guess, is the use of social media. And they have a pastor who loves social media. I love social media. So and using it in a way to, well, I'll get into that in just a minute. I don't want to jump ahead of myself. So for me, what I'm working on as far as relates to ministry, yes, of course, preaching and teaching Bible study and all that, but also, you know, just trying to find ways to be present in ministry. So I've been partnering with some other churches on some feeding programs and supporting other people that are doing, you know, stuff outdoors as much as possible. Because I mean, you know, we've been limited about what we can do. Our church has not been able to gather. We've strictly are virtual for right now, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. And we're doing well. I mean, we took in a new member just last week, you know, and so we've taken in others. So it can happen virtually, right? And then on a personal level, part of why I sent I didn't want them. I allowed my kids to go to their dads for the summer. Is I needed time for personal healing. I shared with you all, you know, that my oldest son was murdered in October 2018, and I hadn't had time off. You know, even though my job gave me time off, but I didn't have time off. Like, you really need to take time. And we were in the middle of a big thing at work. And at the time I was also fostering my nephew. And even if I had, you know, allowed my kids to go with their dad, then I still would have had my nephew. And I didn't want to, that wouldn't have been a good time for me to allow my, you know, send my kids anywhere. So I just hadn't had time off, you know, stayed in church, you know, I just kind of kept going. And that I needed to do that for me. Like sitting at home right after that would not have done me good. It just mentally where I was, I needed to keep moving. And, but I hadn't had any time off. So the fourth piece of what I'm doing is I'm using this summer to just take care of Najuma, you know, just to like lean into me and take care of me and meditate and go to the beach a lot. And I'm a true introvert. So like being at home all day, you're going to laugh at this. People are like, you're kidding me. I am. So a friend of mine,
anybody that follows you on TikTok would probably disagree that you are not,
I'm a high level introvert. So a friend of mine, he does the DISC assessments. He's a mentor of sorts. And he's like, a few weeks ago, he was like, I want to do your DISC assessment. I bet you're going to be a high flamingo. And I was like, bet you I won't. He was like, no, you're going to be a high flamingo. I know it. So I did the DISC assessment, and to his just disbelief, I am a true chameleon. And I'm a high chameleon, but I'm also a pretty high flamingo. And he said, that makes sense. He says, because as a chameleon, you're very introvert, right? But when you need to show up and be a flamingo, you can do that well. So what people see, whether it's a TikTok video or me speaking, is the flamingo showing up. But personally, I'm a true like introvert. I can stay in the house all day and it be okay. So like it all came together well, like having to be in the house or be safer at home. but also my kids being gone after once school finished has allowed me time to just grieve and heal, and I might still cry, but that's just a mommy in me. But you know, just to go through the healing process. I hadn't had time off. And I needed it. I was at a place where I was like, if someone doesn't come get these kids, and then, you know, having to homeschool them for 4 months or 3 months, I was like, are you kidding me? So this summer, that's what I've been doing. I've been doing the work stuff, the outward stuff, the forward facing stuff, ministry stuff, but then just spending a lot of time taking care of me. So that then leads to the TikToks. I am a comedian. I love to make jokes. I love to make jokes, tell jokes. I love to clown. And TikTok was what I needed.
It's what you needed, right? Yeah, it was there with
TikTok
open arms.
Was like the perfect platform for me to allow my comedic side to just explode this summer. And so that's what I've been doing. So and what I also have figured out how to use TikTok to say some important things. Right. You know, so it's comedy, but it's also some important stuff and encouraging. But TikTok is my friend. I love it.
Yeah. Well, I don't follow that many people, but I follow you, and I wait for those videos, the new ones to come out, because to your point, it's a mix of comedy or you just kind of like being silly or just whatever you're doing. But then also like, man, there's some times where you are encouraging and you're, you know, telling me, I'm like, oh man, I can do it. Yeah. I can wake up and win, you know? And honestly, your TikToks, the kind of those encouraging ones, really inspired me to utilize TikTok as a ministry in a sense, you know, because there's so many young people on there who eventually they're going to need some type of guidance into something. And so for me, I've turned my TikTok into just me being a dad. One of the things I love doing. I just love being a dad, and I love doing everyday dad things. And I think, man, you know, there's this whole generation of young men on TikTok. As they're scrolling through, maybe they'll come across me, you know, doing things with my son or cooking for my family. And that will be like something they're like, oh, you know, it's cool to do that. Like that's a cool thing to do. So utilizing that as a ministry.
And there's a lot of people doing that. Like I'm probably less serious with mine, but like I think I did one last Sunday, like rolling up to heaven and the choir singing, but it was all about like, this is what it's supposed to be about. Like when we get there, the high celebration and the praise, you know? So it's humorous, but it's got a message, and I try to make them, you know, just as uplifting as possible. And then sometimes I'm just completely silly, and but it was necessary for my personal healing to lean into my silly side. And so I told some of my church members, like, listen, you're gonna see your pastor really show out on TikTok this summer.
I love it,
because I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna go for it and enjoy myself. And so that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm up to. That's what I'm writing a couple of books. I'm working on a couple of books. I didn't do as much writing as I expected. So I'm going to try to use these last couple of weeks. I told myself like this the other day, like my kids will be back in like 2 weeks. I gotta at least get like at least 3/4 of the way done, you know? And it really is because like this whole COVID thing, plus the racial injustice swarm, like took time that I hadn't expected, and energy. And so I didn't do as much writing as I wanted to this summer, but I'm going to try to use these last 2 weeks to kind of catch up a little bit.
You got to feel the things, right? You got to feel the things that are going on. You know what I mean? You strike me as that type of, like, I'm an empath. I lead through my empaths, you know? So I am in the same way. This new community that I'm launching, Proxemia, we're brand new, and we're launching kind of amidst this COVID thing. And where we're sort of standing right now is forming our identity and what does that look like long term. And so, you know, you were talking about how you are doing some things with your church, like with Black Lives Matter, but then you're also doing some feeding things. And so we're really about education. That's where we would believe that we are going to be most headed, and where we feel like we're most utilized. And for me personally, that looks like mentoring programs. So we're in a phase right now where I'm building out an infrastructure for people to connect with us, not only through just common interest groups and people can just come and like, you know, have an interest groups, but actually if you're interested in mentoring people, young people specifically about something, you can come to us. And then through our partnerships, we will connect you with someone and you can actually set up like a mentoring group for that.
So this is why God has us connected, because one of the things, and again, life took a turn that I hadn't expected with all the media attention and all the various conversations that happened. But one of the things that I was led to do, and I'm still going to do, I'm still working on it. But a couple of things I'm actually waiting for something from the IRS to come. That's what I'm waiting for. Is an entrepreneur program for young adults. And I want to take 20 young adults. And when I say young adults, I'm talking like 16 to 24. My son was an entrepreneur, and actually one of his friends started a t-shirt company years ago, and they kind of like fizzled out. And when my son was killed, the friend, his name is James, maybe sometime around last year, started working back on the t-shirt line. And so he's now got it up and running. He's got the Instagram page, and I have a couple of shirts and, try to help promote him. But in the spirit of my son, I want to take 20 kids and take them through an entrepreneur training. Probably not deep dive for me, because it's not really my skill set, but partnering with people
that's the thing, right?
and getting some mentors. And so this is good to know, because I'll probably be tapping into you all. I'm just waiting for some paperwork from the IRS to come in. And once that comes in, I can kick it off and start going. But I have the young people, I have the curriculum. And so this is good. So I'll probably be reaching out to you like in the next few weeks to say, hey, I need some mentors for my young people.
I'm happy to make introductions and utilize anyone in our network, because
that's good.
I feel like one thing that we were sort of headed towards is we were just becoming a church that was responding to COVID-19, you know, and ultimately that's not our mission, because when we get through COVID-19, whatever that is, there's going to be something else, right? Whatever that's going to be, but there's going to be a next thing, right? And a thing after that, and the thing after that. And we can't be just pivoting every time this happens.
Right.
So we're trying to, we got a visit here from
one of your babies.
From my son.
Hi. Oh, hi, Precious.
Say hi. Say hi to Reverend Juju.
Hi.
You say hi.
He's looking like, I don't know.
Say hi. Thanks for stopping in, buddy.
Suri, she was notorious when I would be on Zoom calls, and she was notorious for every Zoom call. She had to look over my shoulder and then do this.
Yeah.
It's kids. I think kids are the little kids. And she's 5, and she had to be on Zoom for her classroom, but it was something about Zoom and little kids are just, they love it. They love it.
Yeah. Who's that talking to? What's going on there?
They like to make their debut.
Yep.
So let me ask you a question. I have a question for you. Proxemia, is that having to do with proximity?
Yes.
Is that so? What is that? How are you using that? That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, so proximity, what we're about is we're going to be set up in little neighborhoods. So the groups are set up in little neighborhoods, and it's about keeping things small and tight knit and community focused.
Got it. Being in proximity.
And being proximity, right? Yep. So once our groups start to develop and can actually meet in person, and we have mentoring groups that are meeting in person, or common interest groups that are meeting in person, the whoever's leading those groups will have been trained to hopefully they live in that neighborhood, right? So hopefully they live there, but if they don't, they will have been trained to really be a listening ear for that neighborhood. So they're going to go to city council meetings and take a bunch of notes and figure out what's going on. They're going to walk around the neighborhoods and see who are the neighbors and what is the traffic like? So my neighborhood where I live, it seems relatively safe, but if you walk around, cars drive like crazy fast down our neighborhood.
Wow.
There's a need for someone to advocate for either more signage or some type of speed bump to deter the fast trafficking, right? So there's a need there. but
Nice.
we're more interested in what I'm learning is about something that's kind of, it's called human-centered design, which is instead of going into a neighborhood and saying we're going to fix X problem, it's going into a neighborhood and saying, what do you need from us? Where would we be most useful? And then going from there.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're kind of like a church without a building eventually. You know what I mean?
I love it.
We will eventually, you know, as we're probably a year from now, I imagine us doing like a big gathering once a month to celebrate what we're doing. But right now we're setting up these pods in communities and keeping it small and about local communities, so that way we can serve more people throughout LA.
Yeah. And I want to encourage you with it. I think that's beautiful what you're all doing. And I want to help maybe encourage this thought as you guys begin to do your community assessments and ask community what they need, is to look for the people that are not obviously represented, if you know what I mean. Like, look for those, like if I walk down my street, there are people that are obvious, but then who are the people that are not so obvious? And find out what they need to. Like, look for the not so obvious person or persons or person groups and say, I know I see this group and I know I see them, but who's here, but I don't see them.
Who else is here? Right.
Who else is here? Yeah. I think that's the key to all of this work that all of us are doing is as those who are not just underrepresented, but totally not represented. And that's what I'm finding, is that there's more and more people who are just not represented at all. You know, in these a lot of these conversations, and that's important. Yeah, so that's good. I'm happy for you. That's really good.
Thank you. And to that point, it's important to have partnerships and a strong network, because we all can't do everything, right? So that's why we're focused on education, because I feel like that's what we could focus on. There's also a little bit of an homage to my Nana. My Nana was Presbyterian. We're a Presbyterian entity, and my Nana was a teacher. She was a kindergarten teacher. She worked with young kids. So there's that education component that I just feel is spiritually intertwined with who we are. And so it just feels good. And I'm just so excited to connect with, you know, people, you know, like you, who are just encouraging, you know, and encouraging us. Because as we're taking our first steps, and you know, we're sort of past the phase where I used to say we're taking our first breaths. We're old enough. We've taken a few breaths now. Now we're taking some steps. And so we're building our leg muscles.
And you know, and I don't know if this is, I'm sure it is part of the conversation that you all are having, but as education is changing before our eyes. Right, it's changing. It's changing, and the thing about it is, like, we don't really know how it's going to change. I think your focus on education is really going to be important. And it's gonna, and a lot of needs are going to come up that those who tend to make the arrangements for everybody else, are not. They have blind spots.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And where I feel like we're needed right now is the transitional piece where kids now have become freshman online students in college. Come on. And they're too young. They're too young. They don't know how to structure their time and utilize their resources and think outside the box and start to flex these entrepreneurial, creative problem solving skills. That's where we want to fall. We're falling right in there to help these young people transition to online education. Because it's so difficult. So our mentors will live in that space. We'll help with that. We'll help with encouragement, and then also we'll just do fun stuff too.
I love it. Well, you're right on time with the educational piece.
You know, I've thought about it so hard. Like, God, if you're going to call us to plant a church in this time, what are we going to do? That's actually useful.
And that's a good question, Ryan, because I think that's what all of us who are pastors or leaders, spiritual leaders, are wrestling. Like, because I mean, I don't want to say we should give up going back into church as usual, but I do believe it's so far down the line. And it's far down the line, not just because of COVID, but also because the nation has learned how to do church differently. And so it'll be a while before people are like, yeah, we want to go back to that. Like it might take another something for people to
Yep.
want to go back.
Want to go back.
And so how do we remain not just relevant, but useful?
Useful.
Like, how do pastors remain useful at a time like this when you're used to preaching from a pulpit? How do clergy remain useful when they're used to serving within the walls or a classroom? Like, how do we remain useful? That's a good question.
Lord, a good question.
How do I help me to be useful at a time like this? Yeah, that's good. That's good, Ryan. You should write that down.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think about it a lot, and I surround myself with good people. And you know, you might not know this, but you are my pastor. You are one of my pastors. You know, you are someone who's shepherding me through this, who I look to for inspiration and for hope, you know, and happiness. Really, this week's IG series, we kind of have a theme for our IG series, and this one was happiness.
Nice.
This week was happiness. Yesterday we talked with Brian Terada of Be Free, and being yourself. You know what I mean? And you know, and you just radiate happiness. You are just, and I was thinking today, like, you are the people's pastor. That's what I was thinking about. I don't know if people have called you that before, but you are the people's pastor.
Someone did say that to me, and I was like, really?
Yeah.
I was like,
yes,
okay.
The people's pastor.
Just
the everyday people who are searching for someone to see them.
Yeah. I appreciate that, and I received that with great humility, because it's nothing that Najuma's doing. And to your point about usefulness, and I really like that word. I'm gonna have to figure out how to use that. So if you hear me talk about it, I'll give you credit.
Like, I will just know that it was divine inspiration.
Just know,
and I will just feel divine inspiration, and that's enough.
Whole notion of usefulness, and that's actually part of why, like, one of the things that I've been sharing with people, and I know our time is winding up, but one of the things I've been sharing people, even as I've been speaking at all these rallies and protests, is about feeling like, how do I, as a pastor, like step into this moment? But it's about usefulness. Like, what can I be used for? And God made it very clear to me, you have a voice, so use your voice. And that was one of the things I shared at Pan Pacific Park. Like, all of us have a holy summons in this season, and the key is not to, however the world, the universe is summoning you to be useful, to show up. That's how you don't tune that out, but like really lean into it. So for those that will watch your show, and for you and the work that you're doing, and anybody that watch the replay, it's really about how, you know, whatever way that we're called, like being useful in this moment. I think that's what people need. Like useful servants, not just people who have the title of servant, but like real useful servants. Useful. I like the word useful, so I'll be using that.
Take it. It's yours. It's a gift from the Holy Spirit, drawn out of this divine conversation. We'll have many more conversations. This is just the first of many.
Aren't tools are useful? Yeah.
And right now the load is heavy, right? So you only need your most useful tools. Come on, we could go all day.
We can go all day.
Come on.
Preach. Go on, preach, Brian.
Lighten the load.
I love it. And to talk about happiness, I went to the beach yesterday because that's my happy place. I went to the beach yesterday and with a friend, and that's my happy place. So, you know, about happiness, how to be happy. Go where your happiness spot meets you. Yeah. You know, some people it's the ice cream parlor. For me, it's the beach. But go where happiness is for you.
Yes.
Yeah. That's important.
Yes, I will receive that word, and I will hold that. And just thank you for blessing us in our time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, I look forward to having more conversations.
Absolutely. And anyway I can be of use to you, call me.
Yes, absolutely. You know I will. Yeah, absolutely. I will tap into your wisdom, and I appreciate that blessing.
Thank you, Brian.
I look forward to talking to you soon.
Absolutely. You have a great
Be blessed.
day.
Have a great day. Yeah, you
You
too.
too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
How do we log off?
I gotcha.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Wow. Filled with joy and filled with hope and happiness after that. So really wanted to thank Reverend Juju Najuma for joining us today. Thank you for your wisdom. Make sure you're following her page and follow her on TikTok. She's hilarious at Reverend Juju. And if you've yet to visit Proxemia, check it out. Our website will be changing because we have co-opted this new inspiration about having mentors and growing mentorship programs. So if you are interested in being part of that, send us a message on the website. You can still do that, proxemia.org, and that's the best way to get a hold of us. So thanks so much for tuning in. Until we have the next live series, I will just see you around.